but they've been playing in the city for what, a year now, a little year and a half. Yeah, they have someone who does a lot of booking for them. So that's been an invaluable asset.
Hey.
Max, let's let the cat out of the bag. Max has been really helpful, and I am sort of peripherally involved. Full disclosure, I guess, sort of a media helper. I may build a website, do some videoing when I can. They released their EP pretty recently. December. Okay, so not that recently, but that was the first foray into official recorded music. Everything else is just YouTube videos and phone stuff, right? Yeah. And they occasionally have the lovely Mahogany sing songs with them. Since she doesn't sing on every song, but she sings on a pretty well done. Any other baseline stuff that you guys want to know about the band before we hear them play? Anything you're itching to know?
Probably more after they play.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, why don't you guys play a couple songs for us, and then we'll just have a conversation.
Right.
What are you guys starting with?
It's a tune called In the Tribe, written by John Colton. And no one kind of wrote it together, but he brought it in as a tune.
the circumstance. No, you still have a chance to wash the pain away and start again. Now is the time to free your mind from all past iniquities. There's hope in the one that you come and go, but I didn't go right. Now is the time to free your mind from all past iniquities. There's hope in the one that you come and go, but it will break. Thank you.
So at this point, the band wants to disassemble from playing mode and into talking mode. That'd be great. First off, what are your impressions of the music?
Y'all are awesome.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
It sounds great. It's like real, like RH Factor. Is that like a big influence? Yeah, it sounds great.
Tight, 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 tight.
Tight. Yeah, man, that was pretty heavy duty.
Yeah, at one point the guitar, bass, and drum, y'all looked at each other and y'all hooked up on that little thing, which I like. That's good stuff.
Yeah, good pocket. It's like really grooving.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
Who wrote the one that y'all just did?
Lyrics and tune.
So you wrote the vocal part as well, or like the whole thing? You wrote the vocal
I
part.
wrote the melody for it.
Okay.
Kind of worked together.
And you obviously
Okay.
have elaborated on it some.
Yeah.
Some pretty awesome stuff. See, you're what I would call a singer. I'm a vocalist. You're doing like some serious singing, and those charts are real heavy. I think the horn parts, it's really tough to pull off like the horn parts fitting in with the vocal, especially when it's a really like dynamic melody, you know, when the melody's moving a lot. You guys do a really good job of that. Like a lot is happening, but it's not
Nothing's
it's
in
not
the way.
swamping it out. Yeah, it sounds really good, man. Yeah, we're gonna retire. You guys just we'll hook you up with our people, man.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was the conversation that goes about how you guys found out how to gauge the other members' seriousness in the project. You know, how do you what were some of the conversations like? How did you guys decide how to go about in being an organization? Like, are there people who own the music and people are only, you know, a peripheral involved? Is it all equal? How did you guys tackle the question of gauging seriousness in the project?
I think a lot of that gets sorted out just as time goes by, especially when you start touring. You might have someone who says they're serious about the music, but once they realize what, do I have to repeat all this?
No. You have it, Mike. That was my bad.
But you know, once they get into it and they realize that, you know, you might be sleeping on floors, you might be playing to nobody, you might be getting, you know, not getting fed at venues or whatever, then it kind of weeds people out who aren't willing to sacrifice for the music.
But you know, I mean, it definitely like I don't think we ever had a conversation amongst any of us where it was like, okay, we're gonna do this and this and this. Like early on, one of the guys in the band who is no longer with us, he retired after Katrina. He did a lot of stuff for the band that just it needed to be done, and if he didn't do it, it wouldn't get done. It wouldn't have gotten done. And then we also had the fortune of practicing next door to a guy who used to tour manage Lynyrd Skynyrd in Kansas and Collective Soul, and he's just a guy in the business. And so one night when we were practicing, he came next door and knocked on the door and said, "Hey guys,
I'm bored.
I'm bored. Yeah, I'm bored. I'm bored. You guys sound awesome. Let me help out." And he's still working with us, you know. I mean, and he's helped out a lot. And you know, stuff definitely. We all kind of do our own little bit, you know. I mean, there's not. I mean, the guy that works with us is is our manager, but he's not like he wouldn't call himself our manager, but he's definitely takes that role. We call him our manager.
The question was about how you gauge other people's seriousness. I would go back to what I said in the auditorium about everybody helps with the loadout. Like there's just there's a shared responsibility in everything that we do. And I think that that's a good way of sort of I mean, we had one guy who was in for a period, and he had a big problem with sharing equally in that responsibility. I mean, that's not the one, but I'm just saying that's one of the things. He had a big problem with it, and he's no longer in the band, and it's not because of that, but it's just.
And it's not Nick either.
Yeah.
We're not talking about Nick.
But it was just that was
clear.
where his commitment ended. It was like I'm committed to the time on stage and the time off stage.
He wanted to be in the band, but he kind of treated it like a sideman gig.
Yeah.
Right. And I think early on, we didn't want just, we need a trumpet player. Let's hire this guy. Oh, he's not available. Maybe we can hire this guy. We wanted a band, like a traditional band.
And that's something you guys knew early in the conversation.
Yeah.
Like you guys have horn players that are writing tunes. That's awesome because I would guess generally it's probably more like rhythm section people doing it. That's really good because it gets you guys all on like an equal playing ground musically. You guys are all really like contributing to that. And you said something about how like one of you brings something in and then you all kind of go after it, right? I mean, that's pretty much how I would describe our writing process as well. Somebody has like a seed and then we inevitably. I mean, I clearly between the two of y'all. I mean, that's an important thing to work out, like the vocal, but even just arrangements and adding extra parts and whatnot. Like if everyone's contributing to that, I just think it keeps you interested. Unless you're really one of those people that just doesn't care and it's like just tell them what to play. Like I'll do anything. I don't care. Like that's cool if you really are that guy. But I don't know. I've never been cool with that. I want to put my stamp on it somehow. As far as gauging seriousness, man, I mean, I think Dave said it best. Like you'll know pretty quick who's in and who's out. And it's just as soon as something difficult happens.
Get in a van and drive around the country.
About it, It's like,
And
what do
when you
think
get
this is
back,
gonna be?
it'll be a little bit more clear.
Sorry.
I was just like the people that think they're just gonna get signed like the day they play their first gig and like the bus comes around the corner the minute this guy with like a cigar hears you, he's like, yeah, you guys are great.
Yeah,
I don't know anyone that's had that happen to them.
I'd just say like the chemistry in the band is like real important. So I mean,
Off stage.
we're very careful about like getting someone new in the band. Or we had one occasion where a guy just kind of started showing up and it stuck somehow. But for the most part, like, we're real careful about dynamic or whatever. And
Not
I
just the player, but
think
the person.
I think the question's like a lot about responsibility too. Like there are a lot of responsibilities that need to get done. And I guess the question is like, how do they get done? If you have like a round table sort of thing, like unless everybody's equally hyped and equally responsible, it probably won't get done. So I think it's just a question of like how it'll work for any given band. Like it may be that someone needs to like be the leader, and maybe that means like being a martyr, or maybe it means like getting paid more, like they do in some bands. I know Bonorama does like I guess it's like Craig and
Mark.
And Mark are like they're like the head guys, and they take care of like PR and all the other stuff. And the other guys are the rest of the band's like they're like contracted pretty much. Like
So
they're
let's
still
talk,
involved.
I mean, that's a really great topic. How have you guys gone about experimenting, and have you found stuff that sticks in that conversation? Because especially at our level, there's not, the money from gigs is not enough to really pay for have someone else doing all the marketing and all the PR that needs to happen.
It's still not 10 years out. I'll tell you that.
Right.
I think even for us, I mean, you've got to do as much as you can on your own
Yeah.
before you start seeking help from other people. I mean, you really have to have exhausted, like posters. Like
Anybody that works with you has to be just as excited about the band as you are, because nobody cares as much about the band as you guys. So like if somebody says, yeah, I'll make this call, like call him again the next week and see if he made that call. And if he didn't, then sometimes it's just easier and less time consuming to just do the call, whatever needs to be done. Like just do it yourself.
The advantage of having 7 people in the band is like you got a lot of hands and feet. Like you can like put a lot of posters up, drop in
Not on
a lot of
telephone
spots,
poles.
and like get a lot of friends out to shows. You know, I think that's the big part. Like getting the money is just don't play every chance you get. Like choose your shows and just try to fill them up, and like the money will come. You know, if you're putting people in the room. So I mean, y'all are all well connected, I'm sure. So just try to like network with your friends and get everybody out. Do whatever it takes to like get them interested in coming out to your show.
Yeah, going to school here was definitely a smart choice. I can say that from personal experience. It's paid off. I mean, people are like, "How did you get started?" I'm like, I went to Loyola. That's it. There's something about this school and UNO both are just so like immediately plugged into gigs. You can like go to venues and if they know you're a Loyola band, like they're gonna hire you more. I think they're gonna be more likely to hire. I mean, where do you guys play? I mean, you obviously have done some local gigs, right? I mean, like a year. You said you're playing a year and a half out, right? Right on.
Yeah.
Just so we get on the tape, that's some gigs at Maison, Cafe P, and
Tip
Tips.
Tina's and who did you play with at Tips?
I'll let you guys take this. Just pass this around.
We opened for Soul Rebels and Low Tribe
Awesome.
and Bad Fish most recently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Excellent.
There was.
You know, you're like being in college too. Like your network is like bigger now than it's ever going to be. Like you should maximize like this time that you have.
Yeah.
Because you know you're at a university with like I don't know how many thousands of people there are here now, but like we're old, so like
We don't have
like
much of a college fan
yeah.
base, honestly.
But our pool of friends has shrunk because you know people have moved away. People get responsibilities. You know you're still like at an age around a group of people that are all of a similar age who all want to go out and party and who will come to your gigs. And you know you make 200 fans now. You know you're guaranteed to keep like 50 of those if you make it past 5
And
in 10 years.
yeah, and definitely if you make fans here now, you know, when you start touring, after they graduate, they go off other places and
Keep in touch with them.
get jobs. So yeah, you definitely have that effect. The Radiators, you know, their huge success was the two-lane thing in the 80s, and now they can go anywhere in the country and have, you know, so many people who went to two-lane and they went off and got jobs other places. So
I don't know if I'm speaking for everyone here, but could you explain a little bit more about the two-lane radiator? That's news to me.
yeah,
The Radiators, when they first started, they would play the 2-lane quad a lot, and people would have tapers, like people would tape live shows, or they would and then they'd go back to for summer break or Christmas or whatever, and they'd play these tapes for all their friends, and like that was, I mean, that's so taken for granted now with everything being available online like that, but it's just grassroots. Just getting the word out with if everybody that hears you goes back and tells everybody they know, that's a lot of people. It's possible that word can spread really fast,
Yeah, it's like, well, you have the advantage being here that all the people, and also like playing at festivals and gigs here in town, people come to New Orleans and then go home, even if it's not just through Loyola. Like we have a really unique opportunity. Something we've kind of figured out recently is getting yourself big here actually is better for your touring than constantly just being gone, because you can build an audience by traveling all the time, but if people know you're a big New Orleans band, that helps way more than they've been to Asheville 3 times this year and like they were really good. Take my word for it. And like if you guys play at French Quarter Fest, I think we see more people on the road that were like, dude, I saw you guys at French Quarter
French
Fest.
Quarter Fest is one of the big.
And obviously, like you guys know, I mean, that's pretty dumb. Like you should try to get on French Quarter Fest. Like, you probably know that, but anything like that really helps because this is a place that people come to.
So I'd really like to dissect because one of the maybe I shouldn't be externalizing this, but one of the challenges in the bands now is finding a system or finding a way to get some of those responsibilities that are non-musical that come with being in a band, whether it be advancing a show, someone selling the CDs, making sure the album artwork gets done.
Who's doing it for you guys now? Just curious.
Well, the issues that are coming up is that
Here.
the issues that are coming up
run this band in a very egalitarian way. You know, we all bring in tunes, we all try to contribute as much as possible, and we all take on the responsibilities ourselves. The thing that we're running into is people like me in the band are really lazy and haven't done anything outside of writing tunes and coming in and playing the music, whereas, you know, people like Danny are making T-shirts every weekend. People like Nick are out there getting gigs, and people like John are out there totally transforming our online presence and stuff like that. So what we're worried about is how are we going to get them to stop being pissed off at me because I'm not doing anything other
Well,
than
but like that's good though, because you guys, there's a bunch of y'all, and it's cool that you've all found the things that you do. Like that's part of what we've kind of worked out is everybody
Well
has
spoken.
a role. You
Well
know?
said.
You don't want them to be pissed off at you, but you're like you say, if that's not
Look.
where you excel, then let whoever does certain things well, let them do that. And you know, if you can kind of be your own little organization, it's impossible for everyone to do a little bit of everything. Like you're not going to do some booking and do some of this and some of that. So like if some guy's like, I don't mind being on the phone and talking to gigs, like that's cool. But if you're the guy who doesn't know what to do, like maybe it turns out you'll be the guy who like gets the van and gets the oil changes and I mean there's like a million things to be done. Maybe you can just figure out what your role is, and even if it's something that's like on the day of the gig, so you don't have to like get your mind away from it.
Well, and like for a while, our intrepid bass player was you know, advancing the gigs, and then
I sucked at it.
he sucked at it. So now it's Omar's job, and he just kind of took over it. You know, I mean, if you find what works, what everybody's strong point is,
And
and
as
if your
far as-
strong point is writing the tunes, then
You'll be forced into something though, like because you're talking
Merch.
about you're talking about all of like the real proactive things which are necessary, but like then who's gonna drive the van? Like
who's gonna drive
I
from
mean, like Mark,
after the
Mark
show?
drives like 20 hours. You know, I mean it's like well, you'll be forced into something.
That answer is not Ian at this point.
So you're just not going to do anything.
The other thing is, as far as the band not getting pissed off at you, like, if they're doing something that more than you, then make sure they get compensated for it. Like,
Buy him a sandwich.
like
Yeah.
maybe the guy who's making the T-shirts, like, he should take a little cut of that. Like, you don't get a cut of it but you probably don't care. You're just like, I don't feel like making T-shirts. Sure, take more money. I don't think you'll be pissed off that he's getting compensated for more extra work that he's doing. You know, like you can work out some sort of system where, and then that way he'll be getting more money. So of course he's not going to say, "Oh, I'm pissed off at Ian because he didn't make T-shirts." You know, I don't know.
I think it's better for you to try to find yourself a task though. Like you know the pay scale is it's never been an issue with us, but I've been in other bands and it has been an issue. And the more equal you can keep everything, the better. You know, you just find a way to like contribute.
I think one of the reasons that we have so much, I don't know, like, I guess I can just say what I'm trying to say in a question. At what point did the band for you become an actual, like, money-making venture that you could, like, support yourselves with? And what steps did you take to that you can, like, attribute to why your band is, like, financially stable now? Because we have, like, a whole list of things that we need to buy, and we're definitely not like making enough money for us to live on. And so there's like a big like argument sometimes about like how much we get from each gig and like what percentage of that goes to
The band fund.
the band.
Right. Yeah,
funds.
that's good. You got to start doing that right away. No matter how little money you make, some of it has to go towards the greater good or whatever. But I can tell you that for me, at least in the early days, the reason I was able to make a living of it early on was that I lived really lean. Like I didn't have a credit card. I had like a car that I had for a million years. Gas only cost like $1.30 back then. I mean, this was like way back, dude. You know. But really, I mean, honestly, and I know you guys are probably prepared for that, but just like keeping your personal expenses low helps a lot because you can live in the city of New Orleans on way less than you could in the city of San Francisco or New York or whatever. So if you don't get like in over your head with a bunch of debts and like stuff you owe, like find somewhere cheap to live and like I'm in a band. This is the reality of it. I've got to, you know, maybe live in an apartment with a couple other people for a little while. It's all good. It just takes the pressure off so that when you do make $50 in a night, like that's not the worst thing that ever happened to you.
But the other thing is that, truthfully, we all do a lot of other work too. A lot of other gigs. I work for a contractor from time to time. Like we all do. We all have other things. Like it's not. When you say when did this become a full-time gig that you can make a living at?
It has been for periods of time.
It has for periods of time.
If you got time
April
off.
is always really good for us because it's festival season.
But if you've got time off, you guys can all get other gigs, and you should, because it keeps you sharp and it's good for your other Andre over here was talking about when doing more jazz
The other
gigs
one,
was good for his morale, or just kept you as a musician, keeping him really interested in having different outlets for what he does. And in New Orleans you can work, that's another reason why it's great, because you can get gigs. You guys know that. You probably already get a bunch of gigs. So.
I think with respect to your band, I think it always comes back to getting people to the show. If they come, you'll make money, and if they don't, you're not. If they come, you can get a better deal next time. If the club is not giving you a good one, you just gotta I think really push, especially at this stage, every show and try to max out attendance as much as possible, and that'll kind of help this problem. I feel like you'll have more money and it won't be such an issue. But I think it's I think there's no ideal solution in terms of as this in the way that this involves how everybody is equally involved, and especially if you're not getting paid a whole lot. If it stays egalitarian, then there's a lot less conflict, I guess, over money. But you're not going to have the same kind of direction that a dictatorship would have. I think of when Snarky Puppy came to town, and I don't know if y'all were around and caught that thing a couple years ago. It was all very much driven by the bass player, and it wasn't like everyone else accepted that. It was still an amiable thing, but he was basically putting himself on the line, and because of that, he could make demands, or he could do stuff himself, and it's basically his organization. Because of that, they're extremely focused. They hit the road a lot.
It's like North Korea.
They work a lot. It is, but it's effective. It's all about what you're aspiring to.
So, can I see the microphone? So I was hoping you could speak a little about that as opposed to having common goals in the band. You guys have either very naturally or just because you sort of share some sort of like-mindedness, have come across some things that you all agree are what's good for the band, like living in a band lifestyle, touring a lot. There are some things that you've agreed on. For example, it's not about making a lot of recorded music. It's not like we want to be we want to have a super discography. We want to play with everyone on our records. That's not a goal of Johnny Sketch and the Dirty Notes. How did you go about? And I think I speak clearly that one of the things that hasn't quite been externalized for everyone is what are the goals, and what are the things that people are getting behind. And when it gets left unsaid, it doesn't have that direction. How did you guys go about? Was there a conversation like, we want to be on the road?
Yeah.
Or we want to be, how did that go?
Our first goal was total world domination, and it still holds true. It's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress. we were like, let's just go bash it out. And first tour we did, if you looked at it, now it's the most irresponsible, gas consumptive, just big circle around the U.S. So not money making.
We played
came home with
21 gigs
$0.
in 24 days, and went to L.A. and San Francisco, and all the way up to Boston.
Wow.
We'd leave the gig and drive all night and get to the other gig at load-in, having no sleep, load-in.
Ask Dr. Volts about that tour.
Dr. Volts can tell you a little bit about that. But it was fun. It was really fun, though. I think we got yeah, that's you got two of those in you, those kind of tours, and then you start to go, all right, seriously, y'all, this isn't a camping trip. This is a job, And it was. I'm not dude. They're great stories to tell your kids someday. We slept on the side of the road in the grass in Salt Lake City because we couldn't find anywhere to sleep. We just pulled the van over.
It was outside of Salt Lake.
No.
I feel like I'm gonna scare you because you seem like a proper lady. Don't worry. They would get you the hotel before any of them. They can sleep on the ground. Yeah, you're right. But dude, I'm serious. Like laying on uneven ground in the grass behind a bush so that
In a van down by the river.
And it was. I think it was my favorite tour we've ever done.
It was a great
Honestly, I
night's
love
sleep,
that
man. We had a great time. It was really fun. And
I think as far as goals, number one for me is continue writing good music. Because to me, you can continue to be in a band if you're writing new music. Another one is getting people in the room. Like if you're going out and people aren't coming to see you, then you gotta look at what the problem is. And then number three is make money.
Our goals change. I mean, every we spend a lot of time in the van together, so we talk about our goals pretty regularly.
but they do change a lot.
And they change a lot. I mean, it depends on since gas has been getting so expensive. Like a couple years ago, when it first shot way up, we just stopped touring. We could not afford to go anywhere.
But we stayed home, and it really.
But we stayed home.
We started doing all these shows at home, and it really beefed up our.
Because you do,
attendance.
we were doing a whole bunch of shows at home, and that forced us to write a lot of stuff, so we weren't playing the same show forced us to kind of get it together for the home team.
Do you guys all write? I mean, obviously, everybody's bringing in stuff. Drummer doesn't write? Come on. I wrote this.
You do the T-shirts
Yeah.
though, huh?
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, I feel like
I think Dave's right. That really does help, man. Like creative well, the more that you guys dig writing, the more that it'll be like we have to keep playing gigs. And when you're not writing, it gets pretty bleak, dude, because you play that same show, especially on the road. You play that same show like 150 times. It's just not that much fun anymore. So the new material will definitely keep
Yeah.
you guys and your materials. It's also really cool how you guys have your songs are really I think the arrangements are really smart. So I don't know, tightness immediately people respond to it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They just you hear a band that's that tight.
There's a lot of crappy bands out there.
There's like what there was someone told me they're like there's 1 million bands on MySpace. How do you get noticed? I'm like yeah, there's like 950,000 terrible bands on MySpace, and then a bunch of like good ones. But you guys are definitely in that. Like it's easy to get overwhelmed, but you're better than most of the band out there.
I think the money thing is like, you'd be surprised how much like a good paycheck will like smooth over everything else. But I think we may not be the best example for the goal thing because we've definitely like tacked a few times, and the problem with that is like when you make a decision to like hit a certain town, like say you want to like break into like X, Y, or Z, like if you
Like Cincinnati or something.
yeah, like if you do that for a bit and then get discouraged and like stop doing it, like you'll lose whatever you've gained. A lot of it's just you got to be real stubborn to like accomplish that sort of thing.
We also have to be able to recognize when it's like when you go to a town a certain number of times and like the money they're paying, the venue's paying you is going down because you're not drawing enough for them. So
You also got to just, figure out just a way to stay together. Because I mean, just since Katrina, just since I've been in the band and Andre have been in the band, there was like this real upsurge of New Orleans artists that were on the road, and they were all doing well and getting gigs that were better than ours. But for one reason or another, they've just kind of fallen apart, And so I mean, we've just outlasted them, just by staying together. I mean, whether it's a money thing or a personality thing or whatever it is, you gotta figure out a way to keep working together, because I mean, if you can outlast, everybody else that you share, you're sharing a co-bill with, like, you keep all your fans and probably a lot of theirs as well.
I want to ask a question just in regards to what you had asked us. What are your goals? Like you probably now know more than you wanted to know about ours, but like, what do you guys want to do?
Anyone want to take a stab at that?
Partial?
Partial world domination.
Eastern,
Because we got the total
Southern Hemisphere.
Does anyone want to speak on that?
Well, I think right now we're pretty satisfied with the direction our music's taking. So we're just trying to find a way to be able to do it in the future when we're out of school and we all need to make money. You know, there's issues with like, what do we put in the band fund? How far are we going to take the band business-wise? And are we still having fun? So I think like we're trying to find ways to have fun and make it our job.
And
I guess it's probably
if
the
you're
biggest one.
excited about the music, that will lead you. I mean, if you play an awesome show and then, you know, you don't get paid what you want to get paid or whatever, like being satisfied and excited about the music is the main thing. I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but it really, that's, you know.
And you know, if you're like you really like it is a job. You know, it's a lot of fun, but you're not just in a band. Like this is your job. So like you need to make sure you take it as seriously as like somebody who loves math would take accounting. You know, like it's a job. So I mean, you really have to. Sometimes you have to remind yourself about that. You know.
As far as like getting started though, for like that business angle, I think you guys are probably. Sounds like you're probably doing the right thing. Like playing with other bands here is really smart. Are you guys all still in school right now, or? Yeah, exactly. Then that's the perfect time to do that because you couldn't really go on the road a lot now anyway. I mean, you could during the summer, but you know, you got to be here for school anyway. So like getting on board with those other bands is probably a really smart move, and just playing for their fans. I mean, there's groups of people around here that are a network all over the country. Like the Moms Ball people, they're a little older, but they're crazy, man. They come to all our shows. They're like, yeah, they know people everywhere. So
I'm sorry, I don't know what the Mom's Ball is, sorry.
It's just a
bunch of old hippies.
It's a bunch of, like hippies they put together, like they're the crew of moms. And they have a big party every year. They've done it the last like 30 years. And the Radiators did it every year until this last one. We used to play the Halloween Ball until this year. But
they've got like members they've got people in
everywhere.
In California, they got people
part of
in
that Tulane
Minnesota.
Thing.
And
it's the same, the beginning of it was that Tulane.
But there's pockets around the country that like, okay, like if you make a poster, when you're on the road, like make sure the poster says that you're from New Orleans because that's good for.
Oh yeah,
a lot of that's good for just being from New Orleans. Like people will go and see you on the road.
You can be like naughty professor of New Orleans, like officially, because bands shamelessly do that. I mean, and I think it was like they were the New Orleans Radiators, right? I mean,
yeah,
it really helps tremendously because if the people hear that, they're like, oh, well, they can't be terrible.
And they have a preconceived notion of, I mean, what you know, I mean, we don't play like any of the New Orleans standard stuff, and but you know, we go to Colorado and we're from New Orleans, so people just respond to New Orleans in general on the, you know, music fans. So take advantage of the fact that you're from New Orleans, you know.
And taking a percentage out for expenses, you know, gas and insurance and t-shirts.
Somebody needs to have have that like numbers, be able to run the numbers well enough to keep the machine rolling.
Like you asked, at what point did it feel like this was your full-time job? And when Harry, the guy that managed us for a while, when he wasn't coming up to me and saying, "Hey, we need to pay for insurance. Give me $100." I'm like, God, that sucks. You know, it's nice that is already, like, I get paid and then the company, the band gets paid. You know, that's really important.
Yeah, so like if the wheel falls off of your bus, you can afford to get it fixed.
Just hypothetically here.
Not the tire, mind you, the wheel.
So one of the things.
Severing the brake line.
No brakes.
I'll real quick.
It took us like a mile to stop. That's another story. Don't be scared.
I would say like don't neglect like the little things too. Like think about like what the audience is seeing when they're on stage. I think about like your stage plot and like how everybody sets up. Is it like, you know, what are the eyes drawn to? Like is it you know, kind of an awkward like kind of thing, or is it more of like, I don't know, like think about, I guess, what you're trying to present, like is someone out front, or is it more like a, I guess, you know, there are advantages and disadvantages to everything, but just think about it and like try to have like everything controlled, I guess, so that you're
What's
like,
the ratio too of like instrumental stuff to vocal stuff? Is it primarily instrumental stuff right now?
We only wrote one song with vocals.
Okay.
And the rest of them are
But in a live show, we have like a little bit less than half
So it's a little bit less than half of vocals?
Because we do a lot of stuff. We do, well, not as much as we used to, but we do some just straight up power trio rock and roll in our sets, you know. But I mean, at this point, it's almost all horns on everything, you know. But there's always, in every set, there's always 2 or 3 or 4 songs that are just three-piece, you know, and it keeps it interesting. It's a little random sometimes, but it, you know, with our song choices, I think. But it keeps it interesting from an audience perspective. You know, they're not just standing up there. So that, I mean, that's good. That there's.
How long a show do you guys have? Like, could you do 3 hours somewhere?
About 2 hours is kind of okay.
Wow.
That's awesome.
We could do 6 hours. And
So take that!
in your face. And two hours of it would be horrible.
You know,
No, I mean, it's just. I mean, a lot of it is really crap, but 2 hours that's a good bunch of music. I mean, a lot of rock bands from Brooklyn could play about 45 minutes.
I don't think the Beatles ever played longer than like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
How, so if when you're touring, with like a 3-hour set, I mean, do you have to fill a night usually for the kind of music that they're doing?
Lot of
Would it be
people-
accountable for like 3 hours of music?
A lot of people will ask you to do like the standard one is 10 to 2. Not you know, out of town every place closes at 2, but not it wouldn't be like up till 2 o'clock. It's usually like you do 10 to 1:45.
Are there
Like,
breaks?
I would be
or-
conscious
Yeah.
of the
Like
fact
two
that you
75-minute sets is like on average.
275.
if you can make it
290s.
fit, yeah. But there are places that want you to play like exactly at 10 until 1:45, and that's a lot. You can't really get away. That's an awful long set break if you do 275. So
But there's also a lot of places that, you know, they want you to play for. We most of the shows that we do on the road, it's just us. Like we do a lot of just us, no support act, or you know, and so we're responsible for filling the entire night, you know.
Yeah.
And it kind of depends on if the crowd is still there, then the club will say, you know, you can shut it down at 12:30 if there's not that many people there, you know.
you have 2 hours of like continuous music, right? Yeah, man. I'd say you probably need to bulk it up to where
That's
you can
more than
do-
we had when we first started touring.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. I would say that you need to bulk it up to where you've got at least another half hour, 45 minutes of music, just to fill, even if it's just like covers, because you never know, man. You don't want to get out on the gig and like you know you drove all that way and they're like, yeah, man, we need you to play from 10 to 2, and you get one set break, and you're like, ugh, well, I guess we're gonna repeat some songs.
When
Yeah,
they're
and
screaming for that encore.
Second
Yeah.
set is a lot like the first one, you know.
And also you wanna have enough songs like where you can like choose the ones to play that given night. You know, like sometimes a certain song won't be appropriate for a certain venue, so you wanna have a little extra at least. You know.
You also want to get all that stuff, like, you know, taken care of in advance. Like, I mean, as far as like the time goes and like how long you're gonna play, like, you know, you always want to call ahead, but you also, whoever's doing your booking, like, yeah, like you want to work all those details out ahead of time when you're talking with the venues. You want to be real specific about everything, you know, about money, about breaks, about
Brown M&Ms.
Drinks.
yeah, drinks, exactly.
Brown
You wanna have-
M&Ms.
You want to have all of that stuff, you know, taken care of beforehand because, you know, I mean, we've had people, you know, that have tried to say like, oh, you guys didn't play long enough, I'm not going to pay you as much, or I thought the deal was this and the deal was that, and like, you know, you want to have it on paper as often as you can. I mean, you know, you can't sue anybody over it, but you at least want to have something that says, this is what we agreed to, I agreed to it, you agreed to it. Do you remember this? Here it is. You know, you've got to have all that stuff done ahead of time. You know, the time, all that stuff, the drinks. I mean, people have, you know, one guy, he forgot what the guarantee was, and he was like, well, I gave you guys drinks, so I'm going to take all the drinks off of what I'm going to pay you. And it's like, but, you know, that's not what we agreed to. So, you know, people will pull so many things on you. And
It's like the Blues Brothers, man. Drink $300 worth of beer and you get $200, so pay them $100 to play their club. You know, that's never happened to us. We've definitely made $0 before. Not that many times though.
But you've all got to be into that. You know, you've all got to be like ready for that, like ready for the, you know, no money night, ready for the everybody crams into a one hotel room night.
Except for you, of course.
Yeah, except for you. Get your, you know, who's gonna wake up earliest to get in the shower first? You know, like, there, you've all got to be down for that, like equally down for that, because you're up for a lot of disappointment if you think that, everybody gets a hotel room every night. I mean, you'll have no money. You won't be able to you won't be able to pay your booking agent. You won't be able to put gas in the tank. Like,
That sounds pretty bleak,
what a
man.
cheery guy.
no. I mean, listen, the show's
And
great.
then you die.
No,
Right, that's what being a band is like.
The show's great. I'm just saying, for the sake of longevity, like, you could go out and blow all the money that you made that night on, a fat hotel room and awesome meals for everybody. But, then you've got nothing once you get home. Like, if, you want to stretch it out, you want to be financially responsible, and you want this to be your job, you've got to make some sacrifices. You got to live lean, like Mark said.
Actually, no, that's a good point, because like some of the problems we've had in the past were because like a couple members of the band who aren't in it anymore, like they had like personal issues that were like financial, a lot of it, and that kind of led to their problem, like their dissatisfaction with, I guess, how much the band was making or whatever. Like it was stemmed from like decisions they were making personally. So
Griping about the money and then
Yeah.
spending
exactly.
all their gigs, like in front of us, spending all of the gigs money on booze that night.
Yeah.
Like
So
he wasn't in it to win it. So
Max, you had a question?
Yeah, just talking about like getting on the road for these guys if they're gonna just break into a new market. Obviously there's difficulties dealing with venues that haven't seen them before, haven't really heard of them before, and to fill a place, clearly you want to get on a bill with a local act sometimes, or you want some type of guarantee just for insurance. In your personal experience, what have you dealt with, and what are the best ways of going about dealing with sometimes very sketchy, no pun intended, venue.
I think you got to take it at
Let's
first.
just make sure that's on the DVD. What are some of the things that you've dealt with, and what are some of the remedies you've managed to come up with?
I think the thing I mentioned in the forum is kind of true. Like I think the first tour or maybe couple tours, you really have to just kind of hope for the best. I mean, there's no way as a band that's never played in these places before that you can expect much money. They're not going to give you hotel. Like you sort of have to plan for that and look at it as more an investment. Even if just plan on basically making enough money to get there and back. And if you can do that, that is a success on its own, because you can get to know these venues. You can find out real quick, okay, well, we don't need to go back to LA. That sucked.
make sure you have a mailing list on that first tour.
Yeah, everybody you meet, even if it's just a couple folks, it's beneficial. And then you kind of take it from there. I mean, it's sort of like, you have to have something to work with to figure out where you want to go from there. And if you find out some gigs are not worth doing, and if you find out some of them are really like, wow, who knew that Akron, Ohio would be the best gig of the tour? We're going back, But you don't know until you try. And then you can kind of whittle it down from there. One thing we've noticed, too, that I think is really worth you guys looking into is find out about as many venues that are close to New Orleans as possible. Before you're like, what's the best venue in Seattle? Like, start with the best venue in Pensacola or in Baton Rouge or in Lafayette. Like, we can tell you a lot of the answers to those questions, by the way, if you want to know. Little Rock, like stuff that you can get to in a day, those are like gold. If you get good gigs within like an easy drive of here, that's way more valuable than like having an awesome gig in Montana.
And definitely think regionally. We used to book tours that would go Texas, Colorado, California, and then back. And that's fun, but you start looking at, like, if you have a good gig somewhere, people respond, they sign up on the mailing list, they say, please come back. Go back within 3 months at the most. Like, people will, no matter how much they love you, they will forget about you. I mean, we would go to some place, have an amazing gig, and we wouldn't go back for 2 years. Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. If you have a good gig, talk to the club owner that night. Say, what do we do to get back here? We had a great crowd. Can you give us a little bit more money? And try to start nailing down the next time you're going to be there. And do it by region. Don't try to cover the whole country in one tour.
Yeah,
And if you're the guy doing the phone calls and stuff, like, I think it's really beneficial to like you be the one. Like, I mean, do you plan on going out with them when they go on the road?
Well, I guess it's yet to be determined. We'll figure out.
It's just, the less that anybody has to do to, like, where none of them have to be in an uncomfortable position, like, the better. Like, if there's a club jerk about it. Like if you don't want to you don't want to have to be the one to be like, I need my money. It puts you in a really awkward position, especially if you want to go back there. If it's your manager or your booking agent, whoever it is that's taking care of those things for you.
Trumpet player.
They expect that from y'all.
Yeah, I mean it's just
It's part of the deal. It is really awkward. Like as far as being a player, I just want to shake everyone's hand in the club. Be like, thanks a lot, really appreciate it. Hope to be back soon. Because then they'll remember, like, yeah, they were good and they were also really nice guys.
Also, in terms of just getting the audience in the door, which is like the first concern, I think a lot of it's network driven. We've had some mediocre shows in Pittsburgh, but the last time we played there, we had someone who she got out all of her friends, and it filled out the joint. It made it a much better night. So if you can just narrow down like who do you know in a certain place, and really get in contact with them well in advance. Like give them a lot of time. And let them know that you need their help or whatever. Or if you don't know anyone, then find some other network you can get involved in, like do what Snarky Puppy did and come talk at a school, or like talk to a local paper or something. Like see if there's some group you can get in touch with and maybe like link up with, because a lot of times they'll want to help, and if it's good music, they definitely want to get people out to the show. So it's just about, I guess, like networking and linking up and just making that effort.
There's also a lot of festivals that let you play for free. I mean, it sucks to not get paid, but it's pretty awesome to go play a festival for 1,000 people who will definitely want to see you again. I mean, we drove all the way out to California, Northern California, twice to do High Sierra, and we still have fans from that. I mean, we didn't get paid. It was part of another tour, though, so you can find something to pay for gas. There's other ones that are closer. I mean, you don't have to go that far, but anything you can do to get in front of bodies in the early stages is worth it. Radio stuff is good too. If you call radio stations, you'd be amazed. They'll almost always let you come in and do something.
Because the media is there to help you.
Yeah.
I was talking to Keith Sparrow from the Times-Picayune a couple months ago, and we were doing our 10-year anniversary show, and so I was talking to him about that, and I thanked him at the end. I was like, thanks for giving us press. He said, that's what I'm here for. He's like, you'd be amazed at how many bands I find out about their CD release party in like the daily listings. Like, some like big, if you have a big show or any show, like call the media. Like they're there to, their job is to promote what's happening, and if they decide that you're what's happening, they're going to give you a lot of press.
Yeah,
and that's awesome.
You send something to Keith and he dug it. And he did a piece in the Lanyap. Well, bam, you got press. You can put that on your website. And it's like then when you're booking a gig, you can go, well, hey, take a peek at our website, and they see Shazam. There's a band that got press in like the publication in New Orleans, and then you're real. Then you're not just like some kids that like no one's heard of. You're like a legit working grown-up band.
And then that's when you've made it.
Then you
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all part
And
of
the money comes right after that.
millions.
I have a question for you. How important was it for you guys to get in front of like bigger name acts, or to get on bills with bigger name acts, and what kind of goals did you set in that way?
Depends on which ones. I mean, sometimes you play for a band where their crowd's just not going to like you no matter what you do. I think it's always good.
We've crossed paths with a bunch of bands, a lot of bands from New Orleans, friends of ours. We've done shows with Bonorama, like out in Colorado. Cowboy Mouth. We did the Radiators a bunch of times. Those guys are friends of ours. Dumpsta Funk. We're actually in talks with. Yeah, we played with Shorty a few times. We're talking. We're close to getting a string of dates put together with Anders Osborne on the road.
Awesome.
And the opening gigs don't pay. They just don't. Like they don't. I mean, they'll pay something, but it's not going to be like if we're opening for Dumpsta Funk on a Friday night in Atlanta, we're not going to make what we would make headlining on a Friday night anywhere. The opening gig does not pay that well, but that's not why you do it. The payoff is that you're playing in front of somebody else's crowd, and it's worth it. It's definitely worth it.
Just make sure that like they're a band that's going to draw a crowd. Otherwise, you're really going to get shafted, because no one, if it's not a well-attended show, then they're going to put you early and there's going to be nobody there.
We did a
it's
couple of
a waste of
shows in Denver, well, Boulder and Denver a few years ago with Particle, band from LA, a real like live techno band kind of thing. And the show in Boulder was slammed. It was sold out. And then the next night in Denver it was a huge venue, and there was like 30 people in there, you know.
For us, I mean, more came in after. But
Not
wasn't
really
that
though. I mean,
many
there was
people.
yeah. I mean, it was really, you know, it was kind of nice to see from our angle that a band that headlines some of these festivals
Yeah.
didn't have as good of a draw as.
After the guy's loaded in his 6th keyboard and then he has to play for 30 dudes.
Yeah.
Puts it in perspective. But it was worth it, to answer your question, dude. I think it's almost always worth it.
Yeah.
You might end up with a bad experience where you're out on the road for a bit and it, like, well, whatever.
And
You can't
depending
tell,
on what
you
the
never
band is, you know, you might be able to like sit in, you know, like with the horns especially. You know, if you're playing with another band,
That's true.
sit in. You know,
Sit in with people in the city, too. That helps a
come
lot.
sit in with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if y'all noticed, but you can, tell me if I'm wrong, but you can get into any venue on Frenchman if you bring your horn. Is that right?
Yeah.
Most places in New Orleans, really. I
Put
mean,
an
pretty
instrument on.
Let's carry a trumpet or
You
something.
could just sing something for him like 10 seconds. They're like, who's going to charge you? Come on.
Well, we're just about out of time. Do you guys have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
I did. You know, this is because it's something that comes up with us a lot. Like there is no quick fix to getting from where you are now to like where you want to be. Like it's never going to be management. It's never going to be booking because you can always be like, well, we've got a great manager, but our booking is slacking, or we've got a great booking agency, but we've got no management presence. There's no like one thing that's going to be the key to like take you up the ladder, to where you want to go. So, you just kind of have to be sort of on top of all of those things all the time. Like you've really got to be, aware of all of your business dealings, and I'm not talking about money. I'm just talking about like who's speaking on your behalf, what are they saying on your behalf, who are they talking to, are you networking with the right people? Because it's, your booking agent can keep you happy by stringing you a bunch of dates together, but once you get there, there's nobody in the room. Your booking agent went to all this work and it bears no fruit. So there's a lot of stuff to pay attention to, and hiring, spending all your money on just this one facet of your business, it's not gonna pay off. You're not gonna find the guy who's gonna take you.
Because you need the other guy and the other guy and the other guy too.
I just want to say you guys sound effing awesome. I curse a lot, sorry. You guys sound really great. It's a really awesome band. I'm excited to hear y'all. And
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll work together at some point in the future. And honestly, if you guys have any questions about like places that we could refer you to, because y'all need to go down to Key West, man. You could kill it down there at the Green Parrot. They'll book you for 4 days. You load in once, and then you sleep behind the stage in this band house. Everybody's got a bed. I mean, you talk about swank, dude. Like, you do the load in, and then you kick it in Key West for 4 days, and you just play at night. It's freaking awesome, dude. So, like, stuff like that. We need to give you at least a couple of places that I know won't, like, interfere with anyone's ability to continue to get booked, because they just want that kind of stuff. And keep it up, man, because you guys are absolutely killing it, man. That was a great. I mean, I only heard 2 songs. I can't wait to hear some more.
Yeah, definitely.
And keep her on stage, because she's smoking it. She's better looking than all of you guys, by the way.
Well, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Noah Professor. Thanks for joining us, Guess and Dirty Notes.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for the workshop.
You guys gonna play anything else? You don't have to.
Is that on one?
No, you don't have to, man.
Can we close with one, gentlemen? All right.
I'd like it.
Hey, did you have me to stand, Wild Bill? Or is it a singing, or what are we doing? Okay, well then. Oh, I love this one. I love this one.
There's actually a story that you guys will appreciate for this. It's a sequel to a song that we played at pretty much every gig called Chet Special. We played it at the Battle of Bands last year, and it went overtime. We were the last band going, so
We were the first band to sign up, but the last band on the bill.
and so this Loyola officer comes up and tells us to stop playing in the middle of the song. With a sledgehammer.
So we kind of ignored him and kept playing. And you know, he came on stage and got a little aggressive about it, and was kind of a jerk.
That's awesome, man.
We got to finish the song. Basically, he was like grabbed my arm. I was like, we finished, and then we were off. And you know, we didn't win the battle, but that didn't matter. We just kind of pissed off.
We were
It really gets like.
That's the most rock and roll thing that happened
So-
that day, I'm sure.
Yeah. Great. So we got really pissed off and, you know, went our separate ways, and I kind of went to the music building and just like vent off, you know, let off some steam. And I came up with this one lick that I brought in, and we kind of made a song about it. So it's called Chef's Revenge.
Ah, nice.
The sequel to the song that we were
I
playing.
love it.